Hello, I'm Steph from iDriver Classic, and in today's video I'm going to be taking you for a walk around the Festival of the Unexceptional 2024. Now we're going to kick off with this section first. This is the Concourse section. So what they do is people can enter their cars, and this is meant to be the cream of the crop. Some really interesting cars here. I'm going to have a chat with one of my friends who's here, and then I'm going to take you out to what is known as the car park. Now when we get out to the car park, if you've never watched a Festival of the Unexceptional video before, you are going to just, well, you're going to be so glad that you've watched this video, because you're going to see some really interesting and brilliant cars. We're going to have interviews, we're going to have cars driving past us, and we're going to try and capture the magic that makes this one of the best car shows, not only in the UK, but in the world. So buckle up, because you are in for a treat. This is a Twingo van. Now I have never seen one of these before. Chris bought this home and was so excited to show me. Chris, what's the story behind this? Because these were never sold in the UK.
Thank you, Steph. Yeah, it's a bit of a rarity, the Twingo van, or Twingo Societe Enterprise version. It was asked for by Renault dealers around Europe, and hence Renault put one together. My particular van, I bought it from the first original owner, actually, in London, here in London. This little van has travelled from Italy to Germany, France, Belgium, and landed up in the UK in 2003, and I bought it from the very first owner, just down the road from where I live in central London. And I feel very lucky to have her. I love the fact that she's a little bit different from the other Twingos I own. I own 3 other Twingos, and they're all sort of crazy colours with crazy interiors. This one's a bit more subdued in white, but really suits the kind of commercial vibe, I think. The target customer for the Twingo van was definitely a small business, really, a small, tradesman, for example, painter, decorator, that kind of business generally. But I know that this Twingo before me was used by a designer, actually. She owned it.
Oh, wow.
And I have named the car Louisa in the former owner's honour.
Oh, that's really lovely. Well, Chris is on Concourse, which we're going to have a good look around, and we cross our fingers for a win, because Chris is so dedicated to his Twingos. He has done all sorts of things. He's helped Twingo owners all over the world, and he's just generally an all-round good egg for keeping little cars like this on the road. So Chris, good luck, and we'll see you at the end of Concourse.
Thank you so much.
Goodness me, this show was so busy, and it was almost at a point where I thought this is probably the busiest car show I've been to outside of the NEC. There were just so many people about, which means when you're watching this video back, you might think to yourself, oh, it's, someone's walked in front of the camera or whatever. But here's the thing, if you were here with me and we were looking around together, people would be walking in front of us anyway. And there are so many cars to see that everyone's really, really busy trying to go around everything, see everything, or certainly see as much as they can. Because later on, I'm going to give you some perspective on why you're probably not going to see every single car, even if you turn up. And in terms of people, I believe there was somewhere in the region of 4,500 to 5,000 people here, which is incredible. It's probably the biggest outdoor car show that I've been to, especially in this country anyway. It's just bonkers, but bonkers in a wonderful way. Now, as we walk around this Concourse section, I want you to appreciate what this means if you've never been here before. Now, Concourse is the selected cars. So what happens is if you believe that your car fits the bill really well, you can enter it to be judged, because not every car is judged. So all the cars that we're going to see out in the car park later on, they're essentially the visitors that help build the buzz for this rather stupendous event. And this section here, these are the ones where you see them win the awards. Now, to get in for this, there's a few criteria you have to meet. Number one is your car has to be unexceptional. And number 2 is it needs to usually have a bit of a story. So this is what I've worked out anyway, because it's the cars that come with a decent story. So maybe it was somebody's grandma's, and somebody's grandma's car won second place this year, or it might simply be a car that somebody has rescued from a garage and put back on the road, or maybe they've driven it across many thousands of miles, or it's their work car that's now a Sunday car. There's lots of really great stories in this, and if I was somebody from Haggerty, the one thing that I would change in this section is, with so many fantastic stories and so many people wanting to hear them or read them or see them, is I would have storyboards next to the cars for people to read, because I feel, because so many owners were tied up talking to people or they were away looking at the show themselves, I didn't get to hear all the stories that I would have liked to in this section. And blimey, were there some good stories, because quite often people look at the cars like this Nissan, for example, and they just see a Nissan. Whereas when you get talking to owners, you start hearing incredible stories where people have spent money on these cars that other people might not have spent because they were just looking at the end result. And so it then takes a car from being unexceptional to exceptional, although this interior for me is truly exceptional. Probably my favourite interior out of all the cars we saw. And I didn't expect to see it, because when I saw the Vauxhall and I just saw that it was a silvery grey car, I didn't expect to see a 70s disco hiding inside. Now as you come round, you'll see things like Corsa Bs, you'll see foreign registered vehicles, because that is something I will say, is that if you do have an exceptional car and you live abroad, please don't be put off entering Concourse or coming to Festival of the Unexceptional, because you will see as we walk around today, there are people from all over Europe that have come to this show. And that's one of the things that I really, really like about this, is that anyone can enter, and also it's not condition based either. And that's another thing that I should probably say, is that while all the cars that you see within Concourse tend to be quite tidy, none of them, well, actually there are a few that are probably totally spotless, but you don't have to necessarily be totally spotless to enter this section, nor do you have to be when you go into the car park, as you'll see later on, because you're going to see a few cars and you're going to think, wow. But there were a few in Concourse this year that I was really encouraged to see, and I think really sum up the vibe of the show, in that they weren't completely clean, and some of those were competition winners as well. So again, that's just really encouraging to see, and it gives a bit of a buzz to some of our younger enthusiasts that are here, that are maybe trying to rescue cars or put them back on the road, where they don't necessarily have the budget to do a full nut and bolt restoration or create something that looks as good as the day it left the factory. Which gives me a chance to talk to you about this Toyota Hilux. Now this won Festival of the Unexceptional, and goodness me, if you had been here with me, you would have seen why it won. It had all the mirrors underneath. Now you might be looking at this and saying, Steph, well, that's had a nut and bolt restoration. Of course it's going to win the show. The owner tells us all that he did not restore it, and actually when you get up close and personal, you can see that it's not being restored. It is exactly as it was when it left the factory. Now you might be wondering how it survived. Well, it was used as a worker's vehicle on a fruit farm, and the only dents on the vehicle are from where they've chucked in the punnets of strawberries and all the rest of it into the back of the car. And that for me made it, it just straight away, I said to Fred, I said, that is my show winner. And the amount of people that were crowding around it just gave it away that it was going to win. But there are lots of other worthy cars here as well. Colin Cork's Metro won Chairman's Choice because he felt that it really embodied what Festival of the Unexceptional was. Now this has had an extensive restoration, and the previous owner put a lot of love into it as well. So it's really great to see so many cars here that are so very well loved and cherished. Now we're coming up to the Citroen Visa. This is one of those vehicles that's really well loved around the edges, and that also won an award as well. Concourse, best selection ever, I would say. Confession time. You are not going to see every single car that's here in this video, and the reason for that is because this show is now enormous. This year they expanded it, and there were around 2,000 unexceptional vehicles to be looking at, which means that it took nearly 9 minutes to walk from one end to the other, and that's with me getting quite the trot on and really going for it to film this section of the video. But I wanted to give you some perspective for the value for money, for what you're going to see, and really for the fact that you're definitely going to need sensible shoes if you're planning to come to this next year and you never have done before. And this was at the end of the day, so there's a few cars missing, but blimey, there was just no way that you could socialise and see all the cars and get everything done. So hopefully in today's video I can do it some justice. Now, there are cars that you will see here today, and I need to point it out before somebody says something, that are not unexceptional. There's certain things that I see here, like this Golf, and I think, that's always been a cool car, some of these BMWs. But here's the thing, this is a very open event, and you do get a few unexceptional or cool cars that are mixed in with lots of things like this Fiesta van, for example, that are unexceptional. But you know what? You just keep walking and you keep looking for those gems that are plentiful on this field. I mean, goodness, as I said earlier, there are nearly 2,000 cars, and a lot of them are so rare that you probably haven't seen them in a long time, or perhaps even ever. Although I did do a double take when I saw this Proton, because I actually thought it was me driving past, and I went to have a good old look at that, and it was so clean and tidy. Now, also in today's video, you're going to see a lot of cars that are at risk, and they're at risk because of things like ULEZ, clean air zones, parts becoming obsolete and values being low, and that's why this show is just so important.
We're here with Josh and he's here with his Carina. Josh, you are a relatively young person with what to you must be quite an old car. What's brought you into ownership of this vehicle?
I don't know really. I've always had old cars, you know. First car was Volvo 440. I would have never picked a Volvo 440, but like Volvo 440, it was just, for some reason, it was really cheap on insurance. So it's like, I'm having that. Like, I'm having that. I could not have a modern car, could not have anything like that. I had Volvo 440, and I wanted something that was boxy. I don't know why, I've always loved the square as possible. So I got the squarest car possible. Got a Sunny ZX, which is so unbelievably square with the body kit, the yellow fog lights, everything. I kind of went through that, you know, had that for a while. I was doing Domino's pizza delivery in the Sunny.
Really?
Yeah. Every car I've had, this did Domino's pizza delivery for a little while. And then, yeah, kind of got over that for a bit and kind of went through a few kind of rubbish cars and an Accord, which I didn't really like, and I had a Lexus, which I didn't really like. And then I got this, and I'd been looking for another sort of 80s boxy car for a while.
Yeah.
And I didn't really, this came up and it was like, it'll do. I'd been looking for so long, I was like, it's all right.
Yeah.
But now that I've had it for a while, I genuinely cannot see my life without it at all.
Really?
Like, genuinely, like it's changed. Like, this sounds crazy, but it's actually changed my life, genuinely. Like, you may notice like the curtains in the back, it's got a full double bed in the back. You know, I've explored Europe in it, you know, I've done pretty much all of the UK. Before I had this, I hadn't really left Norfolk, where I live, pretty much. But then once I got this, I started doing trips to Yorkshire and Wales and Scotland and all over the place, and then it's moving on to Europe, and now I've been to Monaco in it, I've been through the Alps in it. Yeah, so yeah, it's been, and also my introduction to music as well. You know, beforehand I didn't listen to music at all, like at all. And now I just get loads of tapes, go through all the ones that have interesting covers on them, and then find out what I like, you know. So now I've got a good collection. Everything that I don't want, go to free. Please take my Christmas tapes, please. I will repeat that, please take them, I've had them too long. But yeah, that's
What's your favourite cassette?
My favourite cassette,
Yeah.
I don't know. I got this one recently.
What have you got? Show us.
I didn't know what this was.
Okay.
I was like, the cover looks really interesting.
Oh, it's Doctor Hook. Some people that watch this will know exactly what's going on.
I didn't know anything about it, didn't know what it was, but I was like, the cover's interesting.
Good track
So I put it in, and it was like a sunset kind of drive, and it's just such good road trip music. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm like, listen to this is good. Yeah, but now I have loads of tapes that are all good, yes.
Well, we wish you many happy adventures and enjoy the rest of Festival of the Unexceptional.
Yeah, you too.
Now, when you watch this, you may notice that a lot of the cars are very new. And with that, it brings a very different audience. And this is quite interesting. And it's interesting for a reason. Now, every time I go somewhere, people seem to be really climbing all over themselves to tell me that young people are not interested in classic cars. You hear this all the time. No, young people aren't interested. They just want to look at their phones. And it drives me absolutely crazy, because I remember when I was young and people used to say it to me, and that was a long time ago. And here's the thing, if you come to this show, you are going to be shocked by how many young people are not only running stuff that's way older than they are, but also how well they're getting stuck into repairing them. I mean, I was talking to a man with the Daihatsu Applause, and he told me that he got a flight to Serbia to go and get parts for his Daihatsu. How amazing is that? Just this young man getting a random flight over to Serbia to save a car that a lot of people wouldn't even look twice at. And for me, that is where the magic is. All these young people doing brilliant things, and we just don't know about them because so many people are set in this view that young people are not interested in classic cars. And it couldn't be further from the truth, because with these younger vehicles that many of your traditional classic car fans won't particularly place much value on, these younger people are looking after these cars. Does it solve the problem that a lot of the 40s and pre-war cars don't have that same buzz? No, it doesn't, but it does show that the classic car scene is moving forward in the same way that it moved forward from pre-war into that 50s, 60s and 70s market. It's just really the evolution of the car scene, and it's a tough one.
This is Giles, and he's come all the way from Cambridgeshire in his Honda Jazz. But there's something in the boot of this Honda Jazz. Giles, what is this?
That is a Honda Moto Compo,
Yeah.
50cc moped stroke scooter.
Now, what's the story behind this? Because I heard a rumour that you could only get these if you bought the car. It was an optional extra in Japan.
Yes, you couldn't buy the bike separately.
So is that even the case in this country as well?
It was never offered to the UK market.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they only made these for the Japanese market.
Oh my goodness, so it's quite something that it's here
Yeah,
then.
yeah. I mean, it did come in from Japan to the UK.
Yeah,
I saw it 2 weeks ago on eBay.
yeah,
It turned up on eBay. We weren't searching for it. We knew about them.
yeah.
And quite frankly, I wasn't that interested in buying one, but it was there.
Oh, well, you can't say no, can
And I
you?
couldn't
Not
say
really.
no. So they were advertising it at £2,800.
Oh, yeah,
And I rang them up and I said, I want a deal, I'm going to pay today,
yeah,
and I want it delivered to where I am at work.
Yeah.
And we did a deal at 26, and it's done.
It should never be that easy to...
Well, if I see it, if I see something, I'm buying it. That's all there is to it.
Oh, I'm the same. eBay is a curse, isn't it?
It
Because
is.
you get on, you just get hooked in.
Yes.
Now, you've got this, what I would consider to be a thoroughly exceptional Honda Jazz. The condition is just unbelievably good.
Yes.
Where have you sourced this from?
We use a website at work called Dealer Auction where we buy
Oh, yeah.
car stock, and it was there, and she was in hell of a mess.
Oh, really?
Yeah, been outside for about 2 years.
Yeah.
It was a Honda main dealer's car,
Was it really?
but they lost their franchise and moved to BMW.
Okay,
So this was sort of dumped in the back area of the,
it's a shame.
and they put it on there, and I thought, I've got to have that car.
So how much work has it taken you to get it looking like this? It does look forecourt fresh.
She's not. Underside of the car is perfect.
Yeah,
I had to put 4 new tyres on it. We did
Yeah.
an engine service. The carburetor that came with the car
Yeah.
was mullered. Somebody really had a go at it. We couldn't get it to run properly
Yeah.
at all, in fact. So I bought another carburetor from Spain,
yeah,
which was used. I bought another carburetor from London.
yeah,
The second carb didn't work. It did to a fashion. So I put
Yeah.
the third carb on,
yeah,
and it ran perfectly. So we did an oil service, new plugs.
yeah.
A wheel bearing was shot, so we had to buy a wheel bearing.
And where did you get that from?
A company on the internet that specialised in bearings, they sent me a bearing.
Okay,
It was the wrong bearing, it was too wide.
wonderful, yeah.
So we took 3mm off this bearing
Yeah,
to make it work. So we did that. Rear cylinders on the brakes were seized, can't get them, stripped them down, cleaned them all up, perfect. 4 new
Wonderful.
tyres, and she runs really, really well.
it really does show that some people are incredibly resourceful and their skills should be put to some sort of greater good use. Your skill set is amazing, and also that quite often these things which are unloved can be rescued and
Oh, yeah.
brought back, and
I didn't want to
Truly
restore
beautiful.
the car. because I do restore cars.
Yeah,
And I think it's sacrilege to sort of take
absolutely.
patina away from this car.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you know what, as an onlooker, I know that you're looking at this with a professional's eye and you can spot the tiny things.
Yes.
But we were driving behind you and my partner Fred is a Honda man through and through.
Yeah.
And as soon as he locked eyes on your little car, he was hooked. And we haven't seen any of the imperfections, we just think it's beautiful. So thank you for bringing it and
Yeah.
thank you for all your hard work to get it here today.
Thank you.
So the other thing that I've noticed is the emergence and rise of Protons at this show, and you never used to see much of that. It's changed a lot in the last 10 years. So if you went to the first one, you would have seen a lot more of the 60s and 70s cars and not so much of this, because they seem to do a bit of a rolling 20-year on the car park. So it seemed to be, from what I could work out by and large, that anything pre or 2004 or pre-2004 you could park in this bit, and anything after that was kind of in that modern space. Now, you might see some of the cars as well that we featured on the channel, or cars that are coming up on the channel. There's a car that you'll see, the Citroën LNA, that's going to be coming up on the channel for review. I can't remember if it's made the cut on this video, but I did film it. But you know what? Cars like these little Peugeots, it's so funny to me because I'm of an age now where I remember a lot of people having these as first cars, and they were really battered and they were a few £100 in the back of the paper because somebody's nan or, you know, somebody's mum had finished up with them, and they were then just being unceremoniously flogged on and got rid of. And now cars like that are here and they're celebrated. So it's a really interesting change, even within my lifetime, within the classic car community, because I remember when I first bought my Metro, and there was the Metro Owners Club, but there certainly wasn't that level of respect and excitement for a Metro that you see now. They were simply just little cars that got you around from A to B. So this is what I particularly like about this show, is that you see a lot of these survivors getting that love and admiration that they deserve, because they've done their hard time. They've worked their guts out, doing whatever they needed to do as the daily driver, being parked up in car parks and forgotten about. And now they're here, and it's great to see them. And I really appreciate all the people that have put so much hard work and effort into getting the cars here today. So if you're watching this and you've seen your car, or perhaps I've missed your car unintentionally because there are so many cars here, thank you for all the hard work that you do keeping your car on the road. This is what I mean, by the way, like the Rover and stuff. I personally wouldn't consider that unexceptional. But at the same time, I do really appreciate that it would have gone through a period of time where it would have been unexceptional and it wouldn't have been worth as much money as it is today. And so that is worth noting, because you might have seen that Morris Minor earlier as well, and that wouldn't have been worth much money. I mean, goodness me, I bought mine for £500. They really weren't worth much money. So nowadays they're lauded up as, oh, they're amazing, they're classic. Yeah, but they weren't originally. They used to just be essentially rock boxes that you ran until another one went wrong. So many of us bought them. When one went wrong, you just think, oh, go and grab another one. And so it's quite nice to see a couple of them peppered in amongst all the other bona fide unexceptional cars that are here today, because there is a point in every car's life cycle, I think, where it goes through that unexceptional period. Unless it was super expensive like an Aston Martin, then probably it won't do. Now let's have a few more rolling shots. Now I love some of these French cars, and it is worth noting, and I think you'll notice it here today, that there are an awful lot of Citroens, and you've got ZXs, XMs, there are Citroens that people just walked past in a car park, and now they're here with us today being celebrated. So it's good to see some continental representation alongside cool stuff like this. Now when we've got a good little lineup up here, there are again cars that you probably, even today, might just walk past if you see it in a car park. Although, I don't know what your opinion is, when you see cars now that are pre-2001, do you stop and take a picture? Because I do. I always send it into my little group chats or put it on Twitter, because I don't know when it was, but it seems to have been at some point in the last 10 years, cars that were once plentiful seem to have just vanished off the face of the earth. So shows like this do a real service in adding value to these cars, even if it's just perceived value, which helps keep more of them on the road. Because I hate the fact that ULEZ, clean air zones, and all the rest of it wipe out cars like this unceremoniously. And it actually makes me so cross, because we have all these cars that are good enough to carry on being used, and yet they're just scrapped off because they don't meet some criteria somewhere that someone in an office has determined. And it truly drives me crazy, because we don't have infinite resources on planet Earth, and we need to try and keep using the stuff that we've got. And I'm sorry if I sound like, you know, somebody banging a drum, but it makes me so cross that perfectly good cars are scrapped and got rid of, when really they could be used elsewhere, or perhaps given some sort of exemption to be used until they're no longer roadworthy. Why can't we do that? It's just waste for the sake of waste. And I totally appreciate the need for clean air, but I also appreciate the need for looking after our heritage.
This is Jeff and his Fiesta, and you might notice that it's a left-hand drive. Jeff, I already know the story behind this car, but tell us, for people watching at home, where you got this car and everything that happened around it.
Well, yeah, I'm partially indebted to you for this even happening. So basically what happened, I've always quite fancied a Mark I Fiesta. I've got a last of the line one as a daily. But I couldn't afford one, quite frankly. And one of the ways to pass time I seem to have indulged in recent years is to surf websites from foreign classified. So this was found on Le Bon Coin, a French classified site.
Yeah.
3 grainy pictures. And I just thought, attractive price. I'll see if we can do anything with it. And long story short, I ended up making moves to buy it, and here it is today.
Jeff has really dulled down the story. I was hoping you could add a bit more spice, so I'll add it in now. We travelled for days, 3 of us driving in this car. We knew nothing about it, and we went to Monaco, we drove around the south of France, we drove up to see your friend Alex. Where's Alex?
So Alex is in Bourges in central France. I have to say I'm indebted to him as well, because without him none of this would have happened. He managed all the paperwork. He effectively bought the car for me, and then I bought it from Alex, so that's how we could sort the insurance and everything else like that. And yeah, we went to Nice, just north of Nice, to get it.
Yeah.
And I reasoned that it was probably better to get one from the south of France, because it was better to spend a couple of days driving rather than a couple of weeks welding. And so far that's actually proved to be the case, because there are no holes. And when we got it back, it sailed the MOT, which is just remarkable, really.
Yeah, and it is a beautiful car, and it was such a great story, which I believe you're putting in next week's issue of
Classic Car Buyer, yes.
And there's a full article on all of this about how we knew nothing about the car. We just arrived in a random car park and waited for this.
Do you remember when I approached the wrong people?
Yes.
And it was really like, it was basically a father and son team who sold the car, and then I got the wrong father and son, and they were really bemused as I was like, oh, and they're like, who are you?
Looking at Jeff like he was an absolute alien, but to be fair, it was about 7:30 in the morning. We were clutching baguettes and looking for a man with a car.
Yeah, and it was raining, wasn't it? And I was just sat there like looking really sad under my umbrella, waiting for something to happen.
But we never had any problems coming back, and it was so good. And I've not covered this on the channel because Jeff has wanted to keep it for the magazine, which is fine. And I'm so excited for you all to read the story within the publication, because it's one of the best rescue stories I've certainly been a part of and certainly experienced in quite some time. So
it's actually out already. It was out Wednesday.
Oh, it was out Wednesday.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to have to rush down to the newsagents after you've watched this video. Right, come on, because we need to go and have a look at some cool cars.
We do.
Sorry, I need to drag myself off the ULEZ soapbox and stop banging on and on about it, but I just get so cross at how much money is wasted in terms of cars being scrapped, clothes being binned, furniture being got rid of, decent properties being knocked down or modified without it needing to be done. I just hate waste. It just drives me absolutely crazy. Now, this is a very different car show to a lot of the car shows that we've been looking at this year. Things like the Standard Motor Club Rally, the Morris Minor Owner Club National Rally, some of the other classic car shows that we've been to, What is your preference? Do you prefer car shows like this, where it's live and let live and cars that are aged 25 to 40? Or do you prefer that more chromy classic stuff, the pre-war cars, the mid-century classics? What is your preference? And also, I want your opinion. We need to get a discussion going in the comments section below. What do you think we should do about these cars in this 25 to 40 age bracket? Because if all these clean air zones get rolled out unceremoniously across all the cities and towns, we're going to lose so many of these cars, and also potential attendees and future attendees as well, because people are going to say, I love this car, there's nothing wrong with it, but it just doesn't meet the criteria that's set out by someone in an office that I will never meet. And they then have to get rid of the car. Quite often, a lot of the people that get rid of cars in ULEZ don't want to get rid of them. They get rid of them because their hand has been forced. So what do you think the ultimate solution is? Personally, for me, I would have an amnesty. So I would allow people to run these cars until they're at the end of their useful life. But tell me what you think below.
Now this is Edie. Now if you remember ages and ages ago, many moons ago, we did a Volvo 480 and that belonged to Edie. And now she has, in many Citroen owners' eyes, taken a step up. Edie, tell us about your beautiful Citroen.
I got this 2 years ago. It was a gift from my dad, but turns out he didn't want it after that, so it ended up with me. It was actually scrapped.
You're joking?
No, so I did go, I had a little sort of quite a back and forth with DVLA to unscrap it on the basis that I felt it was done in error.
Yeah.
And I won. After a while I won, and so then started the process, and it took until March this year, and it was with Andy Sheraton at APS Classics. He did the final push and he got it back on the road for me, and it was MOT'd and back with me.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So as many of you will know, my Proton is here, and I was talking the Proton video back being worked on by APS Classics, and Edie uses APS Classics as well. There's clearly a theme here. Andy just loves those 80s and 90s vehicles. What work has he done on the car to get it on the road for you?
Andy's done all the suspension, the brakes.
Yeah.
It had already had the cam belt, the water pump and
Yeah.
whatnot done. He put all new brake pipes on it, he welding,
Yeah.
all the little niggles afterwards. I take it back, and bless him, he's got like endless patience. He has so much patience for me and for the car, so he's so lovely. But yeah, it's just kicking up little niggles as it would. It was off
Yeah.
the road for about 16 years.
Gosh, really?
Yeah, it just sat for about 16 years. It was only on 30,000 miles. And
Now, the people that don't really like cars and aren't, in my opinion, true classic car enthusiasts will look at something like this and say, Edie, you are like this with those banknotes. But when I look at what it's worth on paper, it doesn't match up. For you, what are the biggest joys that come from owning this?
this one I've actually, I feel quite connected to it. I do
Yeah.
feel like it's quite personal, this one, even though it looks terrible from 90% of angles because of the paint. I know it's a good car.
Yeah.
I know it will last. If I wanted it to, I could probably keep this for another 20 years
Oh, absolutely.
and keep it going, you know. I don't know the future of it. Will I keep it? I don't know. It's me, you know, I don't know. But yeah, no, I've got quite an emotional connection to this one, I think.
Oh, I love that.
I have added up how much I've spent on it. It's quite a lot.
The thing is, though, is if you think about people that watch football and think about how much they spend on football tickets and all the rest of it, it's all just about enjoying life. You can't just live to go to the supermarket and buy the things you need and pay the bills. There's got to be some joy somewhere, and you've brought a smile to so many faces today. I've seen so many people walk past you smiling, you know, people muttering about owning one, somebody else having one, and that's what it's all about. So thank you so much for bringing it, Edie. And
thank you so much.
you know what, thank you for sticking with it in terms of all your battles with the DVLA, because that is no easy thing. I had to do it to get Nancy's taxation class changed years ago, and it took me nearly 2 years, so I can't imagine what it takes to get a scrapped car back on the road, and it's just wonderful to see you here. Have a really great day.
Thank you, you too.
Now we are into our final minute and a half of looking around all the cars. If you were watching this today and hoping to spot your car and you didn't spot it, I'm really, really sorry, because I would have liked to have found the time to have featured every single car here. But as you can see, this video's already run to over 30 minutes and I didn't get to feature every single car I wanted to. All the cars here and all the owners here, thank you. I know that many of you have put in many hours into the cars, whether it's cleaning, sourcing a part that somebody told you were never going to find, fixing things that have been really difficult to fix, and somehow you've got your car here. And all the effort and the hard work really shows. So well done. And also well done to all the people that have driven in from abroad. That is a leap of faith and we love that. And there are people here from all over the world, and I don't exaggerate with that, because I was talking to people that had come in from Australia, New Zealand, America, Canada. There are people that represent almost every nation and definitely every continent here today. And it is wonderful to see all of these people and all of these cars in a field in Lincolnshire. It has been great. Now, before I do the final sign off, I want to do a big well done to Paul, Adam, the team at Haggerty that have put in hundreds and hundreds of hours into making this event possible, and to also all the Haggerty staff as well, because the queues weren't astronomical this year. Everybody got in relatively quickly. The food vans were great. The selection was brilliant, even for a vegetarian like me. I had some brilliant choices and I went for mac and cheese this year, and it's been kept clean. All the crowds have been well managed, and all in all, it's been a really inspiring setup. So thank you very much, everyone involved.
The Proton keys are in my hand and everybody is driving away, which means it's the end of Festival of the Unexceptional 2024. We have had the best time. We've been chatting to people, having a little boogie, munching on a few biscuits, looking at some classics. It has been just an absolute hoot. Can't wait for next year already. Feels like it's a million miles away, but it'll be round before we know it. So if you see this come up in the calendar for next year, it's usually at the end of July. Make sure you don't miss out if you missed out this year. And if you came this year, make sure you buy your tickets as early as possible, because they always sell out no matter what they're priced. Right, that's it from me. We've got to drive home, so wherever you are in the world, take care and drive safely.